We'll give everybody like 2 more minutes and then we'll get right into it today. All right, guys, we're going to get started. So go ahead and turn on your screens, please. Okay, lecture will be fairly short today. This is your last lecture of the semester. So you guys basically made it, besides one more exam and lab that you guys have to do. So stick with me and I'll get you guys out of here as fast as I possibly can. So before we get into what we are doing today, Monday we went over lab 12. Does anybody have any questions over lab 12? Okay, if you guys do come up with questions, please let me know. Remember, that is due this Sunday, the 6th at by end of day. Okay, so make sure you guys get that in. With that being said, originally we were going to have another lab to do. So we were going to have lab 3 to do. However, I decided to take that away from you guys because there's not much on it on the exam. And if we do have a question on it, it's literally, there's going to be no math actually involved in it. You'll just have to answer general questions about it. So it gives you guys one less thing that you have to do, especially since you have an exam next week. Okay, so what we're going to go over today is we're going to go over a little bit of flexibility stuff. I know this lecture was recorded last time. I'll get through it really, really fast. I'm not really going to go through the whole lecture. We'll watch a few videos. I will let you guys know what you need to go over for the exam, and we will be done for the day. Okay, so any questions on any of that stuff before we get started? Okay, cool. All right, let's jump right in. So if you guys, and naturally I have the wrong lab up. Oh no, I don't. Okay. So if you guys are thinking in terms of flexibility, I know this lecture was recorded. It's very, very short. That's why I just recorded it for you guys. But can any of you tell me what would actually affect someone's flexibility? Can you guys think of anything?
Lifting too many weights.
Say it again.
Lifting weights.
Lifting weights could, so muscle mass could absolutely affect flexibility. Do you guys think if you have a very large amount of muscle mass, will that make it harder for you to be flexible or make it easier for you guys to be flexible? What do you guys think? Harder, okay? With that being said, as long as you are doing resistance training exercises properly and you're not going for crazy like weightlifts or muscle mass type of stuff, you can keep up with your flexibility. You just have to make sure you're going through full ranges of motion when you're resistance training and also working on a flexibility routine. What else can you guys think of that might affect flexibility?
Maybe age.
Age, absolutely. So as we age, we lose flexibility. Okay, so after the age of 30, your flexibility technically, they say, goes down every year. That's not to say that someone that's like 65 to 80 can't be more flexible than say someone like me. It's basically one of those, if you use or if you don't use it, you lose it type of principles. You have to maintain your activity to keep your flexibility up. Okay, there's one other one that I'm thinking of. Can anybody think about it? So we talked about age, obviously muscle mass, things of that nature. What else could affect flexibility?
Injury.
Injury, absolutely. Okay, that was not the one that I was thinking of, but yes, if you guys injure a joint and you don't properly rehab, okay, that could absolutely affect your flexibility and your range of motion across the joint. That's why when we go into rehab, one of the first things that you guys are going to work on, I don't know if you've ever actually injured a joint, you're going to work on the flexibility portion of it first. So when you get to the exercises, you can actually contract your muscle correctly and go through the full range of exercise. The one that I was thinking of was gender. Okay, so females tend to be more flexible than males. Okay, a lot of that has to do with hormonal differences within females and males, but it could also be due to the fact that maybe women don't lift as much as men and focus on flexibility more. Okay, maybe men just like to get really bulky. They don't put any flexibility into their routine. So all those types of things can affect it. Okay, and then lastly, the type of joint affects the flexibility at that joint. So if we're thinking about ball and socket joints, so our shoulder and our hip, those are obviously the joints that have the most flexibility. So like my shoulder has motion in all 3 planes. Okay, same with my hip. Okay, if we go to our wrist, that technically only has movement in 2 planes, okay? But then our hinge joints, which is our elbows, our knees, those only have flexibility, or those have the least amount of flexibility, okay? And you can only move those in 1 plane of motion, okay? So technically you can only move those in the sagittal plane. So if you just think about different joint structure, that also affects flexibility, okay? Lastly, before we get into the videos really quick of how to assess some flexibility, why do you guys think flexibility is important? Why do we need that in our everyday lives? There's a few different reasons.
To avoid injury.
Avoiding injury is a big one. Okay. So if you guys are looking in the performance aspect of it, things of that nature, someone with really tight hamstrings, that's definitely one of the areas that becomes tightest. If you have really tight hamstrings, you're not going to be able to go through the full range of motion of what you need, but you also won't be able to fire correct muscles in order. I don't know if you guys remember all the way back to kinesiology, CPT classes, all that type of stuff. Your muscles have to order or fire in a certain sequence. And if one muscle is super, super tight, okay, it's going to affect the firing sequence of your muscles. Okay, so yes, you need to be flexible to avoid against injury. What else do you guys think why we need to be flexible? Just think of everyday life. It doesn't have to come from like a performance aspect of an athlete. Anything? So what about just like activities of daily living? Okay, so as we age, if our flexibility goes away, so are our general activities of daily living. If we don't have the flexibility and we don't have the range of motion around our joints, things like sitting down in a chair or picking up a box, reaching into a cabinet to pick something up, all that stuff can be affected. Okay, and then therefore that can lead to injury or actually lead to the fact of you not even being able to do a certain motion. Okay, so when we are thinking about flexibility, a lot of the times people don't think about that in the aspect of it actually having a very large benefit and why we actually need it. Okay, so when we are going into our exam and everything, this is how I want you guys kind of to think about flexibility. Okay. Any questions whatsoever on anything that I went over right now? Nope. Okay. All right. Let me switch my screens and then we will look some short videos over and then you guys, we will talk about the exam for a second and you will be good to go for today. Okay. Let me move this stuff out here. Okay. So first one we are going to go over. Okay. Everybody can see this screen, correct? With the guy and the woman. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's watch this short video and then we'll chat about it really quick.
Test is the shoulder flexibility and mobility test, testing upper body flexibility, and also the natural rhythm of the scapulothoracic region. So we'll allow 2 trial tests for the participant to find again which side feels more natural to them. So Marilyn, let's go ahead and do a practice where you bring one hand up from behind, one overhead like this. And you can see that we're going to measure the distance between each hand. Now try the other side with the other arm going up, the other one. Oh boy, that's pretty evident that the first one she did was her preferred one. So, okay, go ahead and relax. So that's the one that we're going to measure. So, okay, so now we're going to do two tests on her preferred side. Okay, and then I'll show you what we'll measure. So go ahead and bring your right arm up. Okay, so we're going to measure, even though she's not totally lined up vertically, we still are going to measure from her middle fingers, okay, like this with the ruler. Okay, so she's at 6 inches. Now, because there's a space here, okay, it's 6 inches, which will be a negative because she's not touching. And if she were touching, it'd be a 0. But I'm going to measure to the nearest half inch, okay, but I've got it right at 6 inches. So, okay, relax. Again, if she were touching, it'd be a 0. If she had the flexibility and the mobility to actually overlap, we would then measure, you know, maybe it's 2 inches overlap, and we would mark that as a positive. Okay, so that's how we score and perform the upper body flexibility test. So,
okay. We're going to stop that right there. Have any of you ever actually done this test or even tried it yourself just at home? Okay. It is not an easy thing. Have you, Grace? Sorry, were you saying something?
Yeah, I did.
Can you do it? Like your hands? Yeah. Okay. Even if you guys just sit there, like give it a shot. Do your hands actually touch? Okay. Try it one way, then try it the other. Most times you have one side that's probably going to be a little bit more flexible. Okay. It's probably going to be your dominant hand. Okay, so the way that you actually score this, like the guy was saying, your hands want to be flat on your body, okay, and you're going to do middle finger to middle finger, even if they're not lined up properly. So what he was talking about with putting the negative in front of it. So there's a chart that you guys would look at, and we're not going to use this one per se, but if it has a negative, okay, if your hands are not touching whatever that number is, I think she had 6, it would be -6, okay? If it overlaps and you overlap, so you would take the overlapping measurement, so then that would be +3. Obviously, you want them to either be touching or overlapping for it to be considered good. If you have any form of negative and you're not touching, it's technically considered below average, which is kind of goofy for me to think, because I think there's a lot of individuals where you aren't going to be touching. Even if you're not touching by this much, it's still considered below average, okay? So this is not a hard test to administer at all. It's not a hard test to score, okay? So this is why we just did the video on it. I just want you guys to get a general gist of it, okay? So if you've never done this before, give it a shot, see how good you guys are at it, and see if you can actually touch or if you overlap on either side. Okay, all right, we're gonna go to shoulder elevation really quick. We'll go over this and then we'll chat about it fast.
I'm Jordan, nice to meet you. I'm gonna be administering the shoulder.
The screen is black.
I know these videos are kind of corny, sorry.
But before we start, I'm gonna have you do just a couple of arm circles, do some things just to loosen up the shoulders, get your warm-up zone a little bit. Do that for about 30 seconds. Do the Michael Phelps. Stretch yourself out a little bit. There we go. All right. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to have you hold on to this meter stick here, and you're going to hold it, palms down, arms straight. You're going to hold it just outside the shoulder, just like that. And I'm going to measure your arm length from your shoulder, from the front part of your shoulder, down to your left part of the. So about 26 inches. All right, so now from there, I'm going to have you lay face down on the floor. Beautiful, arms straight out in front of you. We're going to keep the elbows straight, the wrists straight, your nose and your chin tucked down. And from this point, what I want you to do is raise this, the meter stick is up as high as you can off the ground. Keep the arms straight, wrist straight. There we go. All right, got about 7 inches. All right, go ahead and relax. 7 inches. And then whenever you feel like you're ready, we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it 3 times total. Okay, ready? Yeah. Go. 8 inches. All right, beautiful. You're doing good. You're keeping the arms straight, keeping the feet on the floor, staying tucked in. So when you're ready, we'll do it one last time. 7 minutes. All right, go ahead and relax. You can stand on it. All right, so now I'm going to take your highest value, which is 8 inches above the floor, do a little math, and then I'll come back and I'll let you know what your score is. Okay, sweet.
Okay, we're gonna stop there. So what you guys saw, he said he was gonna do that 3 times, take his highest value, which is 8, okay, centimeters. I'm sorry, inches. And then how the math goes for this, which you are not gonna need to know it, but he's gonna take that 8, so how far he lifted off of the ground, times 100, okay? And then you divide that by the length from your shoulder to your wrist where the ruler actually is. Okay. Again, this is a pretty self-explanatory test. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done this either. If I was doing a test with athletes, this would definitely be one of the tests that I would do. The back scratch one is super, super easy, but I would probably aim towards doing this before. Okay. When I did a internship at Northwestern with their strength and conditioning department. And we did a lot of stuff with like the PVC pipe work for shoulder flexibility. If you are an athlete, your shoulder flexibility is key to what you do. Just like your hamstring flexibility, both of those can lead to actual injuries very, very, very easily. So you want to have flexibility in your shoulder, but remember, you also don't want it to be that hyper flexibility. If we have that hyper flexibility, that might mean our small muscles, our rotator cuff muscles might not be strong enough to keep our joint capsule together. Okay, so then we would want to obviously strengthen those muscles and loosen up other things. Okay, so obviously shoulder flexibility is a very, very big thing that you can do. Both these exams, these tests are considered field tests. It's anything that anyone can do, and the math behind it is super, super easy. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, cool. We have one more video to watch, and then we will be done for the day. Okay, again, I know, guys, these videos are super, super corny, but just bear with me. Okay, it's like 2 minutes, that's it.
Next is the sit and reach test. You have the client sit against the wall, make sure you have 3 points of contact, hips, shoulders, and head. Next, you'll ask the client to hold out their arms with fingertips over one another. Using the yardstick, place it at the tip of their fingers, in vertical line, and then move the sit and reach test up to the yardstick. And that will be your client's starting point. Next, you'll explain to them that you'll take 2 small movements, and on the third, you're going to move the steel as far as you can. When doing the test, you want to keep a hand on the box and a hand on the center rail to make sure it doesn't move. You ask the client to take 2 small pushes forward, and on the third time, push as far as they can. Good. When taking the readings, you want to read from the far side of the box where the numbers are written in. This is at 17, and then you'll pull it back and do 2 more tests, taking the furthest reading of the 3.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there just because the rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so what do you think this test is measuring flexibility for? There's 2 things it's measuring. Anybody?
Your hips.
Your hips, but more specifically, what muscle in your hips? It's down the back of your thigh.
Quadricep.
The opposite, so hamstring, so down the back. Okay, so it's going to be technically it assesses hamstring flexibility and then obviously low back flexibility. However, a lot of people say that this test is a poor indicator of low back flexibility. It's more so for your hamstrings, okay? The issue with these tests, anybody can do it. However, if somebody has a lower back injury, any spinal injury, any tightness in the low back, leaning forward like this picture has right here can be hurtful to their back, okay? So what you guys would want, have you guys ever heard of a goniometer? Kind of looks like a protractor, okay? That is like an actual direct measurement of your joint. So actually, let me see, I have this pulled up. So hang on, let me find the picture of it so I can show you guys what it is. Just kidding. Okay, so see, this down here is technically considered a goniometer. Okay, so what they do, okay, so obviously this guy isn't doing his a flexibility test, but if someone were to lie down, you guys all know the lying down hamstring stretch where you bring your leg up, okay? So what you would do to actually test that is to lay down on the ground, keep that one leg down, lift the other leg as high as you can. And what this device, the goniometer, is gonna do, you're gonna put it on your hip, okay? And you're gonna measure the straight leg all the way to the other leg. So obviously the greater that angle is, okay, the more flexibility you have. Technically on that test, you wanna be up to 90, okay? If you are below 90, then obviously your hamstrings are a little bit more tight, so you have to work on it. But then obviously if you're further than 90, your hamstrings are in good shape. The reason sometimes this test is easier because it saves your low back, okay? Yes, we wanna work on low back flexibility, but if you really wanna focus on that hamstring flexibility, this is the best way to go, okay? This is all very, very easy, okay? Anyone can do it. You just have to make sure that you have the correct goniometer for each joint. They all look a little bit different and there's obviously different sizes of them, okay? All right, so everybody has a general idea, okay, of how we measure flexibility, okay? These are not the only flexibility tests that you will come across in your life, okay? There are more. These are just the general ones that people can do, okay? Flexibility tests are pretty easy to administer. Anyone can do it. It's normally a field test. You don't need expensive equipment or anything along those lines, okay? So when we were thinking about this in terms of our exam, you guys aren't going to have to do any type of math, okay? If I give you in the question the actual value, you will just have to look at a chart and assess it, okay? I might also ask you what's the importance of flexibility? Okay, why would an athlete need to be have that flexibility? Things along those lines, and what might affect flexibility. Okay, that's as general as we are going to get. We're not going to be any more specific on that. This is why you guys aren't doing a technical lab on this. Okay, so is there any questions on actual flexibility and what we talked about? Okay. Obviously look over this lecture, but then before, if you guys can remember, before Thanksgiving break, that Wednesday we had a recorded lecture. If you have not viewed it, it is on this chapter. So view it. It's literally 15 minutes long. Okay. But it can help explain things a little bit more. And then you can stop it and look at the notes and things like that. Okay. So then if we are going over to thinking about musculoskeletal fitness and the assessments that we talked about on Monday, okay, that is the majority of what your actual exam is going to be over, okay? There are going to be case studies like, say, okay, Brett lifted or leg pressed 315 pounds. He weighs this much. What is his estimated, or what is his 1 rep max kind of thing, or what is his relative strength? I'm sorry. Okay, it's going to be very simple like that. Then you will have to look at a chart and answer the question on where their fitness level is according to the chart. Super straightforward, guys. Does anyone remember the relative strength equation? It's just one step. That's it.
Isn't it your weight divided, or it's whatever amount of the weight is divided by your own weight?
Yep. Okay. So it's going to be your 1 rep max weight. Okay. The amount of weight that you lifted 1 time divided by your weight. Okay. Obviously, we will be using SI units. Okay. So if it is in pounds, you guys need to convert it to kilograms. Okay. Before you answer the question. Our charts are all going to be in kilograms and the SI units, so you're going to need to use that, okay? Again, this is a take-home exam, okay? It's going to be between 6 to 8 questions, okay, depending on how many questions I add on the flexibility portion of it, okay? Very simple. You have access to your notes. There's no reason you guys shouldn't do well on this, okay? After all the other things that you guys have done in the class, this should be the most straightforward because the math behind it is super simple, okay? Does anybody have any actual questions on how the exam will go? Okay, so then let me take you through what you have due, because today is the last lecture, okay? So I want to make sure you guys are good to go on Monday. Lab 12 is on Blackboard. There was issues with it earlier. I'm sorry, it wasn't available. I don't know what I did. It is available now. Okay, and it is due this Sunday by end of day. Get it in on time. Get the most points that you guys can out of it. This is the final push, okay? Monday, your final exam will open up under the exams tab on Blackboard. It will say exam 4, okay? It'll open up at at noon, okay? And then it'll be open through Wednesday, end of day. You shouldn't take too long to do this exam. My thoughts are it'll take you maybe 40 minutes or so, okay? But you have plenty of time to get it done. Once you guys get that done, you are done with everything for this class, okay? The only other thing you have to do is if you have late work, you've missed an exam, something along those lines, contact me so you guys can get it done and make sure you guys are getting stuff in and you don't have any zeros, okay? Most of you are doing a phenomenal job, so keep it up. But there are some that have a few assignments missing, so make sure you guys get that done. Okay? Any questions whatsoever? Okay, I'll stick around for a few minutes. Okay, otherwise, you guys, good luck on the lab. Good luck on your exam. Reach out to me if you guys have questions. Okay, and then I will send you guys an update next week on when your final grades will be up. Okay, see you guys later.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.